What makes a man change? Can a person who has caused unimaginable suffering ever find peace? And what kind of compassion is so powerful that it transforms a killer into a saint? This is not just a story. It's a mirror, reflecting the deepest truths about the human heart. In ancient India, there lived a man whose name was spoken only in whispers. A man so feared that entire villages would empty at the sound of his footsteps. His name meant garland of fingers, because he wore one, made from the severed fingers of those he had killed. His name was Angulimala. But this story isn't about death, it's about life. It's about transformation. It's about the moment when violence meets peace, when hatred stares into the eyes of compassion and breaks. You're about to witness one of Buddhist tradition's most powerful stories ever. It is a tale that isn't just about the past, but about you, me, and the parts of ourselves we struggle to forgive. It's a story that asks, what happens when we stop running from our guilt and turn toward truth? You'll discover how a boy named Ahimsaka, which means harmless one, was twisted by lies, broken by anger and consumed by madness, only to have it all undone by a single moment. One meeting, one presence, one voice that refused to hate him. This is the story of Angulimala, and it may just change the way you see redemption forever. Take a deep breath and let's begin. Before he was feared, he was loved. Before he was Angulimala, he was Ahimsaka. His name meant the harmless one. And for a time, he lived up to it. Ahimsaka was born into a noble Brahmin family, deeply respected in the kingdom of Kosala. He was not just intelligent, he was exceptional. Curious, kind, and gifted beyond his years, he was sent to study under the most revered teacher of his time in the city of Taxila, a center of ancient learning. His mind absorbed knowledge like a sponge. He was disciplined, humble, and deeply devoted to his master. Everything about him pointed toward a life of peace, wisdom, and honor. But brilliance, like beauty, often attracts jealousy. Among the other students, envy began to brew. They watched as their teacher praised Ahimsaka's work, sought his insights, and gave him favor without hiding it. And slowly, poison began to drip into the well. Whispers turned into lies, false rumors of arrogance, accusations of disrespect, until even the wise teacher, once full of admiration, began to doubt his brightest pupil. Then came the turning point. The teacher, corrupted by his ego and unable to admit his failure, gave Ahimsaka a final task, a guru dakshina, the traditional offering to complete one's training. But his request was twisted. "Bring me 1,000 right-hand fingers," he said. "Only then will your training be complete." It was madness, a test no man of integrity could fulfill. But Ahimsaka, heartbroken and obedient, believed it was his sacred duty. He trusted his master, and his master betrayed him, so he left civilization behind. And in the silence of the forests, the boy who once vowed to harm no living being became the man who wore death around his neck. He began to kill, one by one, trying to fill the impossible task, trying to silence the ache of confusion, betrayal, and heartbreak. And with every finger added to the garland, Ahimsaka faded, until only Angulimala remained. But inside the monster, the boy still lived, buried, wounded, waiting to be seen again. The forest was silent, not because there was peace, but because there was fear. Word had spread of a lone figure wandering the wilderness, tall, fierce, eyes hollow like a cave. A garland of severed fingers hung from his neck, swaying with each step. He didn't hide, he didn't run. He simply waited and killed. Villagers abandoned fields, merchants changed their routes. Children were warned to never wander. He was no longer Ahimsaka, he was something else. He was Angulimala. Each death was recorded not in ink, but in flesh. One more finger, one more step closer to 1,000, one more layer of humanity peeled away. But deep inside, a battle raged. He wasn't evil, he was lost. At night, When the wind stilled and the silence returned, he would sometimes cry, not for the dead, but for the boy who used to smile, for the promise that was stolen, for the trust that was shattered. But the next day, he would kill again, because he believed he had no choice, no way back, no forgiveness waiting, only the task, only the number, only the garland. And so, the spiral deepened. With every life he took, the world grew quieter, except for the voices in his mind. He became a ghost, feared by thousands, understood by none. The king placed a bounty on his head, but no one could catch him, no one dared to try. And somewhere in the growing silence of his soul, he began to believe what they said, that he was a demon, that this was his fate. Until one day, a figure appeared in the distance, walking calmly, unafraid. The path twisted through the forest like a serpent, quiet, still. But something stirred, not in the leaves, but in the air. Angulimala stood in the shadows, eyes sharp, breath slow. He had almost reached his goal. Only a few more fingers, only a few more lives. Then he saw him, a monk, walking alone, clothed in saffron robes, barefoot, unarmed, calm, no fear in his step, no tremble in his hands, just presence, pure and unshakable. Angulimala watched with confusion. Everyone else fled at the sound of his name, but this man, this monk, walked directly toward him. He stepped out, roared, charged, but the monk kept walking, peaceful, still. And then, the moment, Angulimala shouted, "Stop, monk! Stop!" The monk turned, met his eyes, and said, "I have stopped. It is you who have not." The words cut deeper than any weapon. Angulimala froze, not from fear, but from something he had not felt in years: awareness. "What do you mean?" he asked, breathless. The monk replied gently, "I have stopped causing harm, stopped running from the truth. But you continue to harm. You run from peace." The forest was silent again. But this silence wasn't fear. It was clarity. In that stillness, something broke inside Angulimala. The chains, the rage, the illusion that he was beyond redemption. He dropped his blade, fell to his knees, and wept. This man, this monk, did not curse him, did not fight him. He saw him. And for the first time, Angulimala saw himself. Angulimala followed the Buddha, not as a hunter, but as a broken man seeking healing. He had dropped his blade, but the weight he carried was heavier than any weapon. Shame clung to him like a shadow. The faces of the dead followed him in every step. But the Buddha did not turn him away. Instead, he looked into the eyes of a murderer and saw a human being, a soul still capable of awakening. When Angulimala begged to join the Sangha, the monastic community, the Buddha simply nodded, without judgment, without hesitation. Others protested. "This man is a killer," they cried. "He cannot be allowed to wear the robes of a monk." But the Buddha answered, "If he has truly changed, is he not more worthy of compassion than ever before?" So Angulimala shaved his head, donned the robes, took the vows, and began the hardest journey of all, the path of redemption. Life in the monastery was not easy. He was avoided, feared, even hated. Children cried when they saw him. Villagers threw stones. Some refused to believe he had changed. But Angulimala didn't run. He bowed, he accepted, he served. He woke before dawn, swept the monastery floor, tended the sick, helped other monks in silence. He walked through the streets where he had once spread terror, now asking for alms with lowered eyes. Every insult hurled at him, he met with silence. Every injury, he met with peace. Because the war was no longer outside, it was within, and he was learning day by day how to disarm it. He meditated not just to find stillness, but to face his mind, the screams, the regrets, the ghosts. He didn't pretend to forget. He didn't ask the world to forget. Through mindfulness, he transformed the weight of his past into a seed for compassion. And with every breath, every act of kindness, every silent prayer, he built a new garland, not of fingers, but of forgiveness. Redemption is not a moment. It's a path that's walked one step at a time, often barefoot through fire. Angulimala had found peace inside the monastery, but the world outside had not forgotten. To them, he was still the monster in the forest. Still, the reason their loved ones were gone. Still the nightmare with a name. When he walked through towns, mothers clutched their children. Old men spat at his feet. Some shouted curses, others threw stones. And he accepted it all, not with pride, but with understanding. He never defended himself, never demanded forgiveness. He simply continued walking. He knew the wounds he left behind ran deep, and he knew healing wasn't something he could force, only earn, in silence. But then came the final test. A woman, pregnant and in pain, screamed in labor by the roadside. The villagers panicked. The child wouldn't come. She was dying. They begged for help, but no one knew what to do. The Buddha, hearing of her suffering, turned to Angulimala. "Go to her," he said. "Speak these words. Sister, since the day I embraced the path of truth, I have not consciously harmed any living being. By that truth, may you and your child be safe." Angulimala trembled. How could his voice, once a tool of terror, now be used to heal? But he obeyed. He knelt beside the woman, placed his hand near hers, spoke the words, not loudly, but with sincerity that shook the air around them. And in that moment, something extraordinary happened. The pain eased, her breathing calmed, and soon after, she gave birth, safely, peacefully. The villagers watched in stunned silence. Their eyes filled not just with shock, but with questions. Could he have changed? The man who had once destroyed lives had just saved one. Angulimala didn't smile. He didn't look for approval. He simply bowed his head and walked away. That day he passed the test, not by proving his worth, but by serving without needing to be forgiven. Because true redemption doesn't demand applause. It quietly restores what was lost. One breath, one step, one act of compassion at a time. What does it mean to change? Is it erasing the past or facing it? Is it about being perfect or being willing to grow? Angulimala's story doesn't ask us to forget what he did. It asks us to look at what he became, to see that even in the darkest soul there can be light, even in the most broken person there can be healing. He was a murderer, a feared outlaw, a ghost in the forest, but he became a monk, a healer, a symbol of human transformation, not because he was forgiven by everyone, but because he stopped running from himself. That's the real lesson. You are not at your worst moment. You are not your past. You are who you choose to become. Again and again and again, redemption isn't a gift that someone gives you. It's a path you walk. And the first step is the hardest, to believe that change is possible. The Buddha didn't lecture Angulimala. He didn't punish or shame him. He simply saw him, not as a criminal, but as a human being in pain. And in that moment, Angulimala saw himself. That's the power of true compassion. Not the soft kind that looks away, but the brave kind that looks through, into the heart of suffering and says, "You can still return." And if a man with a garland of fingers could return, what's stopping the rest of us? So if you're carrying guilt, if you're holding pain, if you've made mistakes you don't know how to fix, know this: you are not alone. You are not beyond hope. You are not too far gone. You are still here, and while you're here, you can begin again. Right now, not someday, now. One breath, one step, one choice toward compassion, not just for others, but for yourself. That's the heart of this story, and that's the power inside you. And if Angulimala could turn his nightmare into a path of light, then so can you. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that awaken the soul.